Hey everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and in today's video you're going to see me push to my limits to try and come back from an impossible task that really I can only hold myself accountable for. Alright, so we'll take a little bit of a while to be able to get into that, so let's talk about the tank that I'm going to be playing today, and that is, I'm playing Wargaming's brand new Tier 8 Premium Heavy Tank. It is the E75 TS. And immediately, I guess I made a kind of a bit of a misplay there by not shooting the Cromwell, but we're going to make up for it a little bit by shooting the Comet. So the E75 TS, you'll know all about this vehicle if you've watched my tank review on it yesterday. I'm not going to go into too much detail. Pretty much it's take a Panzer IV Schmolton, put it at Tier 8, and compare it to the American Renegade, as it has 360 alpha damage on its 105mm gun. As you would have seen in my full tank review of the vehicle, it's basically able to get into aggressive positions because of its mobility, and while its armor can work as long as you look after it, its armor will definitely fall back if you don't. Oh, can you believe the frustration there as I missed the M44 as they just hit us, but luckily my spotting is not going to go without use, and I don't actually want to shoot the Renegade. How funny is that? I'm choosing to not shoot the Renegade, but my desire to shoot the artillery on the enemy team means that I take two subsequent shots. After a high roll from the Renegade, we get penned by the VK3001P in the side, and then the T44 in the front as well. Oh my lord, it was not looking good for me at the start of this game. We're going to have to spend the next 90 seconds of this battle ammo ranked. We can see that the space shielding did not protect the side armor. As I highlighted, 80mm is not very good, and it even looks like something ricocheted down into the top of my vehicle there, or maybe that was an artillery shell. And so, a disaster of a start of the game. In these kind of situations, if I wasn't feeling as interested in the game because I'm playing a brand new tank, yeah, I might let it slide and sometimes just give up and think, oh, bad RNG has caused this. It was nothing to do with bad RNG. It was my hunger to be able to kill the artillery that meant that I closed my vision, and I didn't think holistically, and I didn't see all of the threats around me, and I was punished for it because I'm playing a vehicle that it can get itself into aggressive positions, but it doesn't have the armor to be able to sustain itself if you play it recklessly. Now, in retrospect, those two shots that I fired, when I was streaming, again, I was wondering if it was my fault, or I was wondering if I was aiming poorly, and in retrospect, I slowed this replay down. And I watched them a couple of times, and while I was still aiming at the weak point, I could have definitely aimed 3 or 4 pixels higher to be able to get a nice shot into the Renegade's weak point. So definitely, I followed up a reckless play by some poor marksmanship, and really that was the first good shell, and it was one that I wasn't fully aimed, but at least I had it in perfect position to be able to shut down the Renegade there on the enemy team, and we didn't miss a third shell, a kill shot against one of the enemy's top tier heavy tanks. So I've made mistakes. I've gone down to 211 hit points, as you can see over here. It's not looking good, is it, really, when your team is still got 11 vehicles that they have to vanquish on the enemies, and more importantly, you're meant to be the top tier heavy. What is a top tier heavy tank if it doesn't have top tier hit points left? Now, I do manage to get a little bit of revenge on the T44 for earlier, putting a good chunk of 384 into the side of him. It's gonna have to hit him at least another couple of times to be able to shut down the T44, and I'm hoping he overexposes himself. He doesn't. Hoping the IS overexposes himself. He doesn't. But in this situation, once again, it's just about kind of trying to keep calm and realize that just because you're down to a one shot doesn't mean that you can't be useful in the game. And it doesn't mean that you can't continue to still have a chance to be able to influence it. Just the ways that you influence a game when you're on less hit points have to be a little bit more subtle. You only want to do the rock-solid, tight actions. You've made some mistakes, you played loosely, or maybe you just got really unlucky and you've lost all your hit points. Now, it's quite often just your presence that can help influence the battle. If you're a top-tier tank, like I am in this scenario, and even if you're down to a single hit point, your gun still works, especially after you've been given a little while to maybe repair your crew, repair the ammo rack like I did. Your gun is still 100% as effective. It will do just as much damage if you have 1 hit point as to whether you have 1,500 hit points. And so by making sure that you don't get caught out and you remain alive on low hit points, you can just manage to keep influencing that game and just try and get the easy damage at the opponents when they forget about you. And quite often, what you're going to have to do when you're playing safely in these scenarios is just take your time. You're going to have to play a lot more of a long-winded game. And in some games, where the enemies are going to be playing aggressively against you and they're going to all come at you at the same time, that's where you need your hit points, right? In other situations, like you're going to be seeing in this game, the enemies aren't going to want to push us. It's going to be a very long, drawn-out round. And when you get into these long, drawn-out rounds, and you don't actually need your hit points to be able to weather the storm for an onslaught, to be able to tank one tank while you have enough time to be able to finish off the other, and then once you've dealt with him, you can go back to focusing on the first one again, then you can actually still have an absolutely huge impact in the round. Alright, so now that the game has calmed down a little bit, I want to push forwards, and we're going to put a round right through the side of the Black Prince there. However, in retrospect, I wish I'd shot the SU-100, and you'll see that I'm angling my armor, unsure exactly about whether I got spotted or not. The SU is now pulled back round the corner, and while you could argue it's more important to hit the Tier 7 heavy tank rather than shooting a Tier 6 tank destroyer, I can't kill that Tier 7 heavy tank in 2 shots like I can the SU-100. And if I can finish off that Tier 6 Soviet tank destroyer, which definitely actually thinking about it has a far more dangerous gun, especially with high explosive rounds, than the Black Prince will have, then it will actually probably be the better shot, I think, to shoot at the SU-100. And that's why I'm going to be trying to fire blind here at the SU-100. We see the first shell doesn't hit. However, we see the second shell doesn't hit as well. But you know what? In this scenario, I'm using that rock to be able to protect myself from the right, and I'm just going to continue to blind fire. And we don't actually watch that one, so we don't know whether that shell hit because I was worried about the T-44 making an aggressive play. Now the T-44 shuts down my Leo on top of the hill, and we're down by 2 tanks now. But luckily this Black Prince doesn't seem to know what they're doing too much, or maybe it's just the view range that I have on this tank with coated optics and a decent crew from my E-75. They're really giving me a view range advantage. Now you see me shaking my reticle there. That's to try and feather the target through the bushes, because I don't know if he's peering out quite behind the rock, and I wanted to try and get an opportunity there. Oh, that's a bingo! So for the eagle-eyed of you there, who weren't looking at my ugly mug and were focusing on the reticle in the center of your screen, you'll see that shell disappeared. I'm 99% certain that means that we've hit the SU-100, and obviously if we've hit them in a place where we can damage them, that means that they're going to be a one-shot for us now. Hopefully this T-34-85 pops up around the corner, time it, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Might not be the highest damaging shot, but that is another frag to our tally, doubling that and putting us once again within 2 kills of getting a climb back into this round. Alright, so the VK along my right, one thing you'll see me doing is I'm constantly looking there, but what I'm also doing is looking at the minimap to make sure I use the line that goes from where you're looking, I guess the view directional indicator on the minimap, to then see if it goes through the rock to be able to mark it out with the VK 3001P. So definitely use that, and if you haven't activated it, oh, goodness gracious, go and watch my World of Tanks settings guide. Get it up right now, because it is immensely important to use that to quickly establish where the enemies are going to have line of sight on you. Alright, so with the T-44 finished off by the T-44 on my own team, I now want to make a break for it. I want to get up on the hill. Well, we're continuously down by 2 tanks, with 5 against 7 in this scenario. But now that T-44 has been finished off, who was locking me down right from the beginning of the game and put a couple of rounds into my tank, I'm now in a great position to be able to dominate the hill. And when you're in a German heavy tank like this with a great engine power and 8 degrees of gun depression and a fairly meaty 105mm, I'd far rather be on top of the hill than kind of grinding around a corner. Now if I had hit points, I could probably make an advancing play. As I've mentioned all the way through this video, I don't have those hit points. I can't make the advancing play. I can't peer out into the unknown. What you're seeing me do here is be only making the safe shots. And you'll see that by blind firing at the S1 there, who's up in that bush, and he's on 5 kills, while Sixth Sense goes off, as we broke our camo rating, and that clearly means that this Stritzwagen S1 is still in that location. Unfortunately for me, the VK3001P finishes off a Tier 8 premium heavy tank, doesn't lose any hit points, and now we're going to be in a tricky scenario, and oh my lord, it looks like we didn't manage to overmatch the hull armor of the Super Hellcat. Okay, quickly, turn my tracks in, drive forwards, try and get him to shoot my side armor, load a high explosive round to deal 432 damage, but he will have my reload. Did you see how I faked driving at him? Then I have to fall back to give myself just enough time to be able to finish him off. He realized, wait a minute, I have the reload, I can go and be aggressive against the heavy tank. But we caused that fear in him to get him to fall back, to give us that little bit of extra time that we needed to be able to reload the tank, to be able to put the second shot in. Great stuff there. If only we'd rolled a little bit higher with the 440 alpha damage that the high explosive rounds on this tank has. Or even if we hadn't got unlucky and I think just missed the hull of the Super Hellcat completely. And I believe we just missed the hull and went through his right track. Okay, so I'm going to continue to fire blind against the Su-100 on the enemy team, and I have to admit this is going to start to get a little bit expensive, and I'm going to have to check my profit in the post-game stats, but I am a premium tank, so hopefully that won't be too bad. All these blind fire shells, I'm still having to pay for them, and now that I've run out of standard rounds and I'm blind firing APCR rounds, yeah, this is going to get very expensive. But in this kind of a scenario, and how heavily invested I felt in this game to try and come back into it, the credits are the last thing on my mind right now, and any shot that I can put into the tank destroyers blind will maybe be the advantage that I need to be able to come back into this round. Alright, so the Emil 51 is pressuring the hill, and I'm hoping the Borsig will be able to help me a little bit here. I'm trying to get an ambush shot on the Emil, and I'm trying to find myself in a position where I can hopefully engage him without getting hit myself. But I've also got to be careful because the Stridsvagn S1 might be able to get a shot into my back if I mess around. There's the S1, he's behind me. Now obviously we have to take advantage of that, and with another tank falling on our team, but then again the Borsig responds. Once again we're 2 tanks behind, constantly 2 tanks behind. We want to focus the S1, but we have to react to the Emil who's coming up behind us. We see the Emil right there, thinking, can I get a shot on him? I look to my right to make sure that we've got cover against the S1, and the Emil fluffs a shot. Okay, the Emil fluffs 2 shots. If I can get that Emil to bounce 1 more shell, I'll know they'll reload, and I'll be able to go after them. And the Emil realizes that as well. So I've got a decision to make. S1 behind me. To all intents and purposes, the S1 is going to advance into a position where they'll be able to shoot me in the side, and the Emil seems to realize that. So I'm going to advance. We fire 1 onto the move on the Emil, and this is where it's very important to be counting your shells. I know that I have the advantage against the Emil. We crush him, lowering his hit points by 343, which will allow us to finish him off with a subsequent shell. And there goes our 4th kill of the game, and that was a beautiful crush against the Tier 8 auto-loading Swedish heavy tank. But another contender steps up, the Black Prince. It looks like that Black Prince is trying to fire high explosive rounds at us, but luckily the spaced armor on the side of the tank seems to be protecting us, or maybe they're just shooting into the thick side armor with a very low caliber British gun. This Black Prince needs to be firing standard rounds, or more likely firing APCR rounds to be able to get through this. But with 2 minutes 20 seconds left on the game, I can't really wait for the Jagdpanzer IV to be able to harass us, and I have to try and shut this Black Prince down now quickly. You can see how well armored the turret is of this tank, even against the premium rounds that this vehicle has. And so now we're trying to find a shot into the top of the tank to see if we can find the cupola weakness, but maybe we can shoot through the hull. Remember, the Black Prince has a really weird hull structure, so maybe we can be able to shoot over the tracks, but with the siren going off, now I feel nervous, so I take a chancy shot at the Black Prince. I don't reload high explosive rounds. I probably could do, but then I find the kill shot. Right through the gap in the hull and the turret of the Renegade that we made earlier. We shut down the Black Prince, and now we have a Jagdpanzer and a Stridsvagn S1 to deal with, still with just over 200 hit points. That means we are a one-shot for both of these vehicles. And with 1 minute and 33 seconds, I'm hesitant. I'm thinking, shall we go forwards? The S1's probably advancing at us. Shall we try and go for the Jagdpanzer? The Jagdpanzer fires over the ridgeline, narrowly missing us, and I'm hoping that the good reverse speed and engine power of this tank will be able to get us back up the slope, but we're unable to do so, and the Jagdpanzer manages to get into cover. Now with 1 minute and 15 seconds, I'm just fiercely focused on this Jagdpanzer here, and I have to admit, I tunnel vision, boys and girls. Look at those poor reactions. I don't know the S1 is there for at least several seconds, and I'm so lucky that I react in time to be able to avoid the damaging shell from the premium round of the S1. But now I've got him right where I want him. He wants to rush me with his hit points. I'm advancing backwards as quickly as I can, and the awkwardness of the S1 having to enter the siege mode means the S1 is now no longer able to continue to harass us. I'm going to turn my armor in, and I know that I can overmatch any part of his armor as long as I'm shooting right there, and there you go, 290 damage, but still with 40 seconds left on this game, I can't hesitate. I've got to try and find this Jagdpanzer. I want to just get forwards as quickly as I can to fight the Tier 6 German tank destroyer, and hopefully come back into this game with, oh, this is it, this is the moment, and luckily, the Jagdpanzer bounces off our armor. I really wanted to time that one as long as I could. I could not afford a miss. If I missed, to all intents and purposes, I wouldn't have been able to chase him down with the 25 seconds that I have left. Fortunately, he bounces off me. I made sure we connected the shell into him, and woo! What a takedown. Picking up 7 kills in this round of World of Tanks. Pretty much all of those without more than 200 hit points. And an absolute heartbreak for the Stridsvang S1 on the enemy team, who looks like he was going for the Radley Walters medal. Well, not looks like, he was definitely going for the Radley Walters medal. But sometimes, boys and girls, you just got to say, over my dead body. And while there's absolutely no doubt that I got really lucky at the end of this game against that S1, and definitely RNG was on my side, we had to put ourselves in the situation where RNG would be on our side and keep plugging away as safely as you can to be able to make use of those final hit points. And this kind of a game doesn't happen to me very often in World of Tanks. What I can quite often do is have a profound impact in the game still when I'm down to my last shot. It's almost like that wake-up call to say, all right, you've messed around enough, you've taken your chances enough, why not just turn down the dial a little bit, play a little bit more safely, and just make sure you try and take advantage of the low-hanging fruit, those easy opportunities. If you keep doing that enough, then it's definitely going to, at least once in a while, change the game in your team's favor. So this was an ace tanker for the E75 TS, 1,719 base experience points. That's a whopping round considering it was on the first day that I ever played this vehicle. We get a steel wall medal for 1,790 damage blocked, a high caliber medal for the 5,700 damage that we dealt, and we still make 71,000 credits profit. So that was trying to come back in an impossible situation in World of Tanks. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, but if you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And if you want to find out everything there is to know about this vehicle, then check out my full tank review for it yesterday. And just a heads up that tomorrow I'm going to be releasing 2 videos, most likely, one opening 200 loot boxes, and hopefully some subsequent gameplay in the Object 703 version 2. Although, as you'll know, with my history of opening loot boxes, I've never got a Type 59, and I never got the IS-3A, even though I've opened up hundreds and hundreds of them. And so make sure you subscribe to the channel and activate notifications if you want to get those videos as they are released tomorrow. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.